folks. Welcome into that betting show for March 4th, 2019. Your one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs right here at sportsbookreview.com. Zion getting better. Nevada and Utah State with a brush up. The NFL Combine in full swing and basketball galore. March Madness is here. He's Teddy Covers. He's Teddy Savransky. Give him a follow at Teddy_Covers. I'm Donnie Seymour at Right Side VP. Teddy, we were off for the weekend. A lot went down. But it's seeming like that hot topic that keeps on turning and turning and turning is those Los Angeles Lakers can't get out of their own way. Teddy, what's going on out there?
Well, I mean, what happened in Phoenix on Saturday had everything to do with what happened against the Bucks on Friday night. Remember, the Lakers led the Bucks in the fourth quarter, 2.5 minutes to play. They're up 118 to 116. And then Milwaukee goes on a 13-0 run, and they drain 4 straight three-pointers, and the Lakers go, oh, no, we got to play on the second of back-to-backs in Phoenix. And it was a no-show. It was an absolute no-show for L.A. This is a team, look, I bet them at minus 110 to make the playoffs when the prop first came out. At plus 300, I thought about taking a second shot. I'm like, no, I'm just going to hold. Now it's plus 600. Obviously, my initial wager, not a good one, and the Lakers suffer a severe hangover after the Bucks meltdown in Phoenix that has absolutely put their playoff chances in jeopardy.
Yeah, I don't like what you see out of the forget about even the body language with LeBron throwing the inbounds pass off the backboard, but not a lot to like what you see. We also saw, I believe it was Jeannie Buss over the weekend talking from the Sloan conference saying that, can't believe all the media and everybody. Let's be real here. That entire team was on the table, and you want to talk about some self-destruction at the trade deadline because they were all in on Anthony Davis, and it backfired, and we can't get over at the beginning of the season and over the summer when they were looking to add on with LeBron, a lot of one-year deals out there, Teddy, where if you were coming to the Lakers, you knew there was a good chance that you would be traded or they're going to move on from you at the end of the year, lock morale low. And also, let's not forget, Teddy, the rest of the schedule heading down the stretch, the 7th toughest schedule heading in there. Not a good look for LeBron and the Lakers right now. It's going to be a long time coming, or a lucky streak coming for them, Teddy, if they want to get in the playoffs.
Well, I mean, it comes down to one factor. It's not like the Lakers can't do it on offense. Their offensive execution has been solid. What LA has not been able to do is get stops. The defensive intensity hasn't been there. During crunch time, when the game is on the line, the Lakers have fallen apart repeatedly in recent weeks. And, of course, they keep falling into these big deficits. L.A. has more wins in games where they've trailed by double digits than I think any other team in the league this year. That's not a stat you want to have. And that means that you're not coming out with max intensity. That certainly happened against the Suns over the weekend. We'll preview what might happen against the Clippers tonight, later in the show.
Teddy, it is March 4th, and you know what that means when the calendar flips? It's March Madness time here at sportsbookreview.com. For all the latest, follow us on Twitter at SBR Sports Picks. Check us out on our YouTube channels. Every single time Teddy and I go live here on that betting show, you'll get the notification to pop in and view the information, SBRodds.com. Also, Teddy, we have the Atlantic Sun tonight. And some people out there watching the show might not even know what the Atlantic Sun even is. But the fact that it's starting off March Madness in the conference tournaments there's always a word to the wise because, betting, some of us old school guys, we look at all of these conferences and we dip our toes in at times and we follow along. If you are a novice bettor out there just getting in March Madness, you want to feel that excitement, Teddy, talk a little bit before we jump in saying, just because the Atlantic Sun is in tonight in its conference tournament play doesn't mean we have to make a wager, does it, Teddy?
No, it doesn't. Look, 2 weeks from today, we'll be talking about brackets in the big dance. A week from today, a week prior to 2 weeks, from 2 weeks from today, in between the two, next week is probably the most insane week of the entire year when it comes to betting and college hoops betting because there's action literally morning, noon, night, 8 a.m. to midnight here on the West Coast. So it's one of the craziest weeks you'll find for college hoops betting. This week, we have a handful of the smaller conference tournaments opening. And this is, let me make it very clear. If you haven't followed the Atlantic Sun all year, don't try to learn the conference overnight and be betting the conference tournament. That's a surefire way. Sure, action junkies, you need something. You can find something. But when I'm handicapping conference tournaments, you better believe it's conferences that I paid attention to during the regular season on a daily basis. I'm not trying to learn a conference in 24 hours. That's not the way to make money betting basketball in March.
Also, keep in mind, these lower level conferences here, they still play really good ball. Lipscomb's a very good basketball team, and you see some astronomical numbers possibly in the first rounds. But also keep in mind, when you get to the Power 5 conferences out there and beyond, these conferences mostly play on a neutral court in a big city, and it's a lot of fanfare. These lower level conferences, keep in mind, a lot of these early round games are played on the team's home court, so there is an advantage in that. Teddy, one more thing here, because since we're starting off Conference Championship Week, we'll get to some of the bigger tournaments and the bigger conferences as we go along. But talk about maybe playing in these environments here and maybe changing up a betting strategy. Because when you're looking tonight, there's no more style points in this. If you're looking at Lipscomb, depending on how far they run, they're probably not going to get an automatic bid or maybe on a borderline if they do get an automatic bid. But talk about these teams that are going to be playing back-to-back nights, some of them. Sometimes, win tonight, get a day off there. There's no more style points here. So when we talk about a large line there, they don't need to go out on the court and blow them out by 30 points. But also talk from the other perspective, Teddy, that some of these teams know it's their final shot and they will be fouling and fouling and fouling to extend this game, knowing there is no tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's a key point, because not only is there less motivation for the favorites to run it up, but to counter that, you're going to find the underdogs, the outmanned underdogs. A lot of them are going to have a glass chin. What happens? They might fight for a while, for a half, but when the superior team makes their run, and guess what? You look up at the scoreboard and you're down 15 and there's 8 minutes left, and you're not coming back against this team, and this is your last game of the season. And you see some big closeout runs in these ball games on a pretty consistent basis. So, yeah, I'm not a big fan of laying 20 points in conference tournament games. I can't think of a game of a year where, this is the spot I'm laying 20. I don't do it. But when you're talking about taking the big dogs, recognize that many times the fight will be out of them well before the final buzzer sounds.
Yep, talk about like losing in football terms, getting off the bus, you're already intimidated by the other team. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but good to have March Madness around here and right around the corner there for the tournament. We'll keep you involved here on that betting show. NFL Combine updates and NFL free agency news. Yes, free agency news. You can't sign yet, but there's moves to be made out there. Teddy, we talk about the shorts, the T-shirts, the bench press, the cone jumps, all that stuff here. But some guys are there, and this is designed as a moneymaker. Montez Sweat up there blazes a 4.240 as a defensive end from Mississippi State, transferred in from Michigan State earlier in his career. Quinnen Williams out there. We all know the dominant player he is. 4.83, a 300-pounder, moving it downfield as a defensive tackle. A lot of these guys are making money, but always hasten there. And we take a look, it's a shame that, God rest his soul, Al Davis isn't around, because he would have been jumping through his box in Indianapolis to get some of these 40 times down, Teddy.
Exactly. It's like you hear the same story every year, and as the combine gets more and more publicized, the hype even gets greater. Just because someone runs a really fast 40-yard dash doesn't make them a great football player. Game film will show you, hey, does this guy take plays off? Hey, does this guy disrupt every time? 40-yard dashes will tell you how fast somebody can run in a non-football environment. It's insane, the draft risers and fallers based on combine times. I'm not buying any of it. The one thing I am buying, though, were the rumors about Nick Foles going to Jacksonville. And it's not a done deal yet, as you mentioned, but it looks like he's going to go. And I'm telling you, Blake Bortles Part 2, I know Foles had success in Philadelphia, chucking the ball up at times. I also know that the Eagles, with the choice, went for Carson Wentz repeatedly over Nick Foles. I'm not convinced the Jags are going to be any happier with this guy than they were with Blake Bortles.
Yeah, when you talk about the Nick Foles run there, and I'm the ultimate Nick Foles proponent, but when you're taking him out, he is going to get some familiarity territory with their offensive coordinator already being there. Tom Coughlin's going to say, let's lean on the defense. I get that. But again, Teddy, when you drop back to pass, you don't have that elite offensive line. You don't have that elite tight end. You don't have Alshon Jeffrey on the outside and the overall familiarity with your team. That's a tough division that he's going down to, because when you look at the teams in there, Indianapolis is ready to make a run. Houston's ready to make a run. Tennessee always in the mix as well. There are 4 really good teams there, and it's surprising when you take a look right off the bat and you see them listed, the Jacksonville Jaguars, at 40-1 to win the Super Bowl. You say, oh, man, I'll take a flyer. You have an upgrade at the quarterback. Just a year and a half ago, technically, they were in the AFC title game. A lot changes, but that's a competitive division there, Teddy.
It really is. And particularly, I look at the Colts. My initial reaction is this team's going to compete for the Super Bowl in 2019. My thoughts on the Texans are exactly the same way. These are 2 legit Super Bowl contenders. I don't think Tennessee's there, but if you're grading out the teams in the AFC South right now, Jacksonville, if they're not last, they're third, and they might well be last.
Major League First Look, Teddy, not too far away. March 4th today, March 20th, the first games pop off. A week later, we'll open up here in the United States and get everything underway. Minnesota Twins 78 and 84 in 2018. Head into the season, Teddy. 50-1 odds to win the 2019 World Series. Much better than some of their counterparts here in the AL Central. Team total, respectable here, Teddy. Estimated at 83.5 in 2019. The one thing I like about the Twins overall when you look at them is, they're a smaller market team of the way they operate over the past couple years, but they seemingly always have that competitive advantage up there where the team plays behind their manager. You got a new manager coming in this year in Baldelli. But looking overall at the season itself, every position they have 1 through 9 is a legitimate Major League Baseball player at this point, and also having a decent pitching staff and decent bullpen. Going to get some help, looking for Miguel Sano to come back this year, Max Kepler in right field. They have some good components there, and if you can get anything, Teddy, out of Byron Buxton at the plate to get him on base and use his speed, that'll be a plus for them coming up this year.
Sure, and the initial reports on Rocco Baldelli have been very positive. They're saying that he's going to be the most analytics-driven manager in baseball. And the early reports on team chemistry, pretty good. The team chemistry on this squad last year was not good. And this is a squad, again, right from the get-go last year. This team had a bunch of hype, a lot of hype. Hey, watch out for Minnesota. They're the up-and-comer. And right from the get-go, they crashed and burned. It was an ugly April and didn't get a whole lot better. When all was said and done, ended up being a modest money loser. They were actually money makers at home. They lost 21 units on the road. They made a little bit of money for run linebackers last year. They weren't a disaster, but they came nowhere near the preseason hype. And what happens when a team gets hyped one year and they don't live up to those expectations the next year? Expectations go down a little bit. And meanwhile, Minnesota, you talked about some of the bats. Nelson Cruz matters. There's a guy that's 37 dingers last year. And you talked about the young guys, Byron Buxton and Max Kepler and Miguel Sano. We all know all three of those guys took a step backwards last year, and all three of them are capable of being all-star caliber players. You look at the pitching staff. You say Pineda coming back from Tommy John. He should be pretty good. Jake Odorizzi's been okay. Jose Barrios ate up a bunch of innings last year. This team might be decent. And decent should be good enough to make them some money. They're a 500-level team. You'll make money backing the Twins 2019.
Yeah, I believe so, Teddy, because when we talk about, the Cleveland Indians winning the division right off the bat, which is probably rightfully so, but they're not as loaded as they were last year, and a lot of other teams are rebuilding, so they should pick up some interdivision wins throughout the season, but a lot to go on tomorrow. We'll preview another team as we count down the opening day here on That Betting Show with sportsbookreview.com. Overnight line movers, Teddy. BetOnline.ag had Lipscomb up to 27.5 tonight in the A's Sun tournament versus Kennesaw State. Now sits at 25.5, even dipping to 24.5. High price favorite. We just talked about it a few moments ago. Who's going to come out? Do they come out and just put Kennesaw State to sleep tonight? Or do they wait it out? But it looks like some of those guys saying, you know what, Teddy? The way you start off the show, I ain't interested in 27.5, and I still might not be interested in 24.5. That's a lot of points to cover when it doesn't matter how many points you beat this team by. It's just about surviving and advancing.
Sure, exactly. One thing that you're going to see a ton of over the next week and a half. You won't see this in the big dance nearly as much. When the big dance lines come out, they're going to sit because they're going to be spot on. And you'll see a half-point move, maybe a point move. In the conference tournaments, you will see significant line moves every day. The markets go crazy with this stuff based on what happens last night, based on what they're hearing, based on what they're seeing, and where there are literally hundreds of lines to get out in a very short period of time. You're going to see the betting boards go nuts. For this game, well, they're saying don't expect Lipscomb to bring it for the full 40 minutes today. Obviously, once they take the lead, they'll be thinking about further games in the tournament later in the week.
Virginia opens up as a strong road favorite at Syracuse. Seeing some buyback here now, Teddy. Looking right at the lines with betonline.ag, -5.5, -121. So it looks like Syracuse getting a little bit of love here at home when I take a look at this game, and we'll preview it a little bit more down the road. I like what Virginia does bring to the table, and you can't deny what they do against the number, but just interesting to see that Syracuse at home getting that number, because when you're looking at both of these teams, not the fastest paced out there, Teddy. So limited possessions, you're going to have to execute your offense. You're going into the Carrier Dome. The optics change a little bit, but just your quick preview there on that line dropping from around 7 to about 6, 5.5 at places.
Yeah, Syracuse has beaten Virginia the last 2 times the Cavs have visited the Carrier Dome, so they do have success against this team. The thing I want to point out here is everybody, and if you don't know about it, go look it up. I think we'll talk about it later in the show. But Virginia's road success in the ACC has been extraordinary. Against the spread, they have been monsters the last 2 years. And I mean monsters, as good as any team in the country in terms of road point spread covers. That's Virginia in conference play over the last 2 years. And you know what the wise guys say to that? They could care less. All right. All they're worried about is this matchup and these two teams and tonight's game, and the series history gets thrown in the can. And what they're saying is, or I should say the series history, Virginia's ATS success on the road gets thrown in the garbage can. That's not what the markets are focusing on here. And if you're riding this trend, you're getting a cheaper price to lay as a result.
Watching that betting show. Watch what you bet tonight, Teddy. The Mavericks head to Brooklyn on Monday night. The Nets -5. Total is about 224.5. Moneyline spread 173 -207. 7:30 p.m. NBA TV tonight. Dallas been pretty good on the road this year against the number, Teddy. 23-15, 12-12 against the spread as a road dog. 6-2 against the spread in the Atlantic Division. But how about this, Teddy? Out of conference, 17-7 against the number for those Dallas Mavericks. Brooklyn 11-9 against the spread as a favorite. 16-18 against the spread at home this year. Should be a good one tonight, lacing it up in Brooklyn. See if Brooklyn can continue their nice ways at home here.
Well, I mean, the Nets haven't had nice games at home. You know, they're 5-10 in their last 15. 6 of those losses came by double digits. They've lost 5 of their last 7 at home. And oh, by the way, they're going on a 7-game road trip later this month. So it's a Nets squad that isn't playing their best basketball right now. Head coach Kenny Atkinson. This is kind of like playoff time, and teams raise their level. So just playing good defense isn't enough. We have to take another step up, and the contests have to be a little better. And the individual defense has got to be a little better. We got to turn it up a notch. Just being okay or good isn't good enough right now with teams desperate to get in the playoffs. I like quotes like that. All that being said, the Nets have lost their last 3 games by a combined 49 points. They're giving up 121 points during that span on 49% shooting, and they can't hit the broadside of a barn. They've been ice cold offensively. So not always easy to lay points with Brooklyn in this type of spot, considering they've been struggling so badly on both ends of the floor. But I don't want any part of this Dallas team right now. I really don't. They've lost 6 of their last 7. You talked about all the point spread success they had, and make no mistake about it. The All-Star break, the Mavs, number 1 against the spread team in the NBA, profitable in every single role. But they traded 4 of the 5 starters. Now it's Luka and whoever they can get production from. Tim Hardaway Jr. has been good. But the bottom line is this is a Dallas team that isn't what they were a month ago. And this is a circle the wagons game for Brooklyn.
Teddy, to live and die in L.A., do or die time for LeBron and the Los Angeles Lakers. Clippers-Lakers, Battle of L.A. at the Staples Center. Totals 237.5. Line sitting at about -4. 10:30 tonight. NBA TV. Man, there's about 20 games to go still, and it's a must-win game situation for those Lakers. The one interesting thing about both of these teams, Teddy, Clippers 10-3 against the number versus the division, and the Lakers, one of the few bright spots, 9-3 against the spread against the division as well. The Lakers really need this, but as we know in gambling, Teddy, just because you need it doesn't always mean you get it.
Yeah, and this is a really interesting point spread because this point spread is saying the Lakers are the better of these two teams on a neutral floor right now, which is interesting to see. And, of course, the Clips were supposed to be tanking. They traded away a bunch of veterans at the trading deadline. They have, I believe, the youngest starting five, one of the youngest starting fives in the NBA. You know, they have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's 20 years old. You pick up Ivica Zubac and Landry Shamet, who are both 21 years old. I mean, they're a really young team. And, instead of tanking, they're 6-3 since retooling that lineup, playing good ball, both ends of the floor, which is something the Lakers obviously have not been doing. LA with the no-show start against Phoenix. Luke Walton's quote, "I'm happy with the fight we showed in the fourth quarter, but where we're at in the season, that's the desperation we need to start the game with." Of course, they trailed by as many as 19 in that ballgame. LeBron James, it's just unfortunate with the opportunity that we've had. We haven't been able to seize that opportunity. You know, Lakers 4.5 games behind the Spurs right now, 5 games back of the Clippers, although it's worth noting, this is the type of game the Lakers have to win if they're going to make a push. I haven't seen much, that I think that fall apart against the Bucks on Friday night, that may well still linger in tonight. I can't lay points with the Lakers this evening.
Teddy, will UVA continue its non-Duke ACC demolition? If you just kick Duke out of the ACC and out of college basketball, Virginia would be kings, but we know we can't do that, and Duke has had their numbers, but they head up to the Carrier Dome to play tonight, 7 p.m., national game, ESPN. Let's see, Virginia. What we talked about earlier, to dip into a little bit more. If you're taking them, great 401k retirement program, 21-7 against the number in all line games. 19-7 against the numbers of favorites, 7-1 against the spread as a road favorite, and 9-1 against the spread overall on the road. Getting it done home, away against everybody. Obviously not against Duke, but they did cover one of those games against Duke already. Syracuse 17-12 ATS in all line games, 10-8 in the Carrier Dome. Big game tonight. What I always like about Virginia, Teddy, they're going to find the open shot. If you can shoot over that matchup 2-3 zone, which Virginia has the components to do, you should have a good time going against them. But then again, Carrier Dome, always tough to shoot. New optics, going to have 35,000 people there. Big game tonight, Teddy, in the ACC.
Yeah, and I remember the Virginia cover against Duke. You remember that three-pointer at the buzzer?
Late ball, late jumper. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Put money in my pocket, but the Cats were not the right side in that ballgame. That being said, they've been the right side in every other pretty much ACC road game. 9-1 on the highway this season? They were pretty close to that last year. I think something like 17-1 the last 18 conference road games. It's been really sick for Virginia, maybe 17-2. They've been absolute monsters on the highway. That being said, they lost their last time up in the Carrier Dome. They lost the time before that up in the Carrier Dome. Syracuse, number 32 in the country in scoring defense. Virginia's number 1 in that category. In fact, their win over Pitt over the weekend, the 10th different opponent that the Cavs have held under 50 points so far this season. And the last 2 times Virginia has won in Syracuse, well, the losing team didn't get to 50 in either of those games either, both staying well under the total. Now, it is a Saturday, Monday turnaround with travel. Tony Bennett, Virginia head coach. In a sense, you have to be ready to go. You have to be smart with your preparation the day in between, and you're in usually a hostile environment. It's certainly a challenge. We're in some important games, and I think it's a healthy challenge. I'll tell you what, Donnie, I ain't betting against Virginia on the highway, and I ain't betting a Virginia game over the total. So if I'm getting involved here, it's Cavs and or under in this one.
Yeah, should be going to watch tonight, Teddy. Off the mic segment today, bringing back college basketball a little bit. Interesting stuff went down, Teddy. In your neck of the woods out there, Nevada team implodes on and off the court Saturday night, taking a loss to Utah State. Jordan Caroline, as you see, if you saw any of the highlights out there, punched the fire extinguisher box, broke the box, but cut his hand. He's up for disciplinary action this week, depending if he's going to play against Air Force or not. But that's beyond the point. Regardless about the fans storming the court, I'm not going to say, hey, you can't do that or do this. There should be some decorum there, but my strategy on this one, Ted, is what I wanted to ask you about, is the fact that is this a galvanizing force? Because you look at Nevada on the season, a lot of expectations coming in. They should have just run roughshod through their conference. They still have to win their conference. They're going to get the automatic bid being the at-large bid being the 12th team in the country. But is this some sort of thing that you go on the road, you lose, you face some adversity there? Can you rebound from this and use this as a springboard going forward? Because they're as talented as anybody starting 5. But they just haven't clicked all year long, maybe waiting to get to the big stage, maybe waiting to get back to the tournament and show they can do. Can they use this moving forward?
They certainly could. And look, what happened on Saturday had everything to do with Utah State security. You got to get a path for the kids to leave the court. You got to make sure there's a path for the kids to leave the court. And when the kids can't leave the court and they're forced to go past the other locker room, stupid stuff like this happens. And now, disciplinary. That's all on the security in Logan, Utah. Hey, I'm all for fans having a great time. Yeah. But you got to make it a safe environment for the players. It wasn't in this particular situation. When it comes to the Wolfpack, expectations are sky high for this team. And we saw it a lot. Remember when Gonzaga's still better than it, but before St. Mary's was at that level, and Gonzaga just ran roughshod through the ACC or the WCC every year, and they get to the big dance, and they weren't battle tested, and they would get knocked out early. I worry about that for the Nevada Wolfpack because this is not a banner year for the Mountain West. And Utah State probably punched their dance ticket with that win on Saturday night. But these two teams meet again in the Mountain West Conference Tournament. I'll be looking at the Nevada side. That team is more than capable of having their way, even against Utah State, although the Aggies' home court has been very, very strong all year.
March Madness has absolutely started here at sportsbookreview.com, including with that betting show. We'll take you all the way through it. And that's your show today for March 4th, 2019. Your one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs. Good luck in the ASUN tonight. Good luck in the NBA tonight. Good luck in college basketball tonight. He's Teddy Savransky at Teddy_covers on Twitter. I'm Donnie Seymour at Rightside VP. We'll be back tomorrow to continue the coverage on March Madness and your closing line here on Major League Baseball. Thanks for joining the show. We'll check you tomorrow.